May 31st, 2014. A quiet morning in the suburban city of Waukesha, Wisconsin. A cyclist rides along a wooded trail near a local park. The air is calm. The neighborhood is peaceful. Nothing seems unusual. But then he notices something strange near the edge of the woods. A young girl. She is lying on the ground, barely moving. Her clothes are soaked in blood. When the cyclist rushes over, the girl whispers something that chills him. She says 3 words, "Please help me." The man quickly calls 911. Paramedics rush to the scene. As they begin treating the girl, they make a horrifying discovery. She has been stabbed. Not once, not twice, but 19 times. One wound is so close to a major artery that doctors later say she survived by less than a millimeter. Even more disturbing than the brutality of the attack is who committed it. The suspects were not adults. They were not criminals. They were not strangers. They were 2 12-year-old girls. And according to investigators, they did it for a dark internet legend known as Slender Man. The victims and the friends. The girl who survived the attack was Payton Leutner. Like many middle school students in Waukesha, she lived a normal life. She went to school, spent time with friends, and enjoyed sleepovers and birthday parties like any other child her age. 2 of those friends were Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser. The 3 girls attended Horning Middle School together. They shared similar interests. They laughed together. They hung out together. To parents and teachers, their friendship looked ordinary, but behind that friendship, something darker was developing. Morgan Geyser had become deeply fascinated with horror stories and dark fantasy. And eventually, that fascination led her to one of the internet's most famous fictional characters, Slender Man. To understand the crime, investigators had to understand the myth. Slender Man first appeared on the internet in 2009. It began as a fictional character created on an online forum where users posted edited paranormal images. The character quickly became viral. Slender Man was described as a tall, shadowy figure with extremely long limbs and a blank, featureless face. In many versions of the story, he stalked children. Sometimes he appeared in forests, sometimes near homes. Some stories claimed he could control minds. Others claimed he could make people disappear. Over time, thousands of internet users expanded the legend. Stories were written, images were created, videos were produced. For most people, Slender Man was simply an internet horror character. But for Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier, the line between fiction and reality began to blur. Morgan Geyser became obsessed with the Slender Man mythology. She spent hours reading stories and watching videos about the character. She believed Slender Man was real, not just a fictional story, a real supernatural entity. Morgan told her friend Anissa about the legend. And slowly, Anissa began believing it too. The 2 girls started convincing themselves that Slender Man lived in a mansion in the woods of northern Wisconsin. But they believed something else as well. They believed Slender Man demanded loyalty, and they believed they could become his servants. In their words, they wanted to become proxies. But to prove their loyalty, they believed they had to commit a terrible act. They believed they had to kill someone. The girls began planning their attack. Their target would be their friend, Payton, someone they trusted, someone who would never suspect what they were about to do. In May 2014, the girls arranged a sleepover for Morgan's birthday. The night seemed normal. The girls laughed, played games, watched movies. But hidden beneath that normal evening was a horrifying plan. Morgan and Anissa had decided that the next day would be the day of the sacrifice. The following morning, the 3 girls walked to a nearby park. It was the perfect location. Quiet, surrounded by woods, and far enough away that no one would hear screams. The girls wandered deeper into a forested area. Then Morgan pulled out a kitchen knife. Payton had no idea what was about to happen. But suddenly, Morgan lunged forward. She began stabbing Payton again and again and again, 19 times. During the attack, Anissa stood nearby. Instead of stopping it, she encouraged it. After the stabbing stopped, Payton lay bleeding on the ground, barely conscious. At that moment, Anissa told Payton to lie down and stay quiet. She told her that it would slow the bleeding. But investigators later believed the girls were simply trying to make their escape easier. Then, the two girls walked away, leaving their friend alone in the woods, believing she would die. But Payton did not die. Despite 19 stab wounds, she remained conscious, weak, barely able to move, but alive. Using incredible determination, she began crawling, slowly, painfully, through the woods. Eventually, she reached a nearby bike path. That's where the cyclist found her. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital. Doctors were stunned that she survived. One of the wounds had come within a millimeter of hitting a major artery. If it had struck slightly deeper, she would have died within minutes. Instead, she spent months recovering, and she survived. Meanwhile, police quickly began searching for the suspects. It didn't take long. The two girls were found walking along a highway. They were carrying the knife used in the attack. When officers questioned them, the explanation shocked everyone. They said they did it for Slender Man. They told investigators they believed Slender Man was real. They believed he was watching them. And they believed that killing Payton would prove their loyalty. They said they planned to run away afterward and live in the forest near Slender Man's mansion. To investigators, it sounded unbelievable. But to the girls, it was completely real. The case quickly raised disturbing questions. How could two 12-year-old girls commit such a brutal crime? Psychological experts began evaluating them. Morgan Geyser was eventually diagnosed with early-onset schizophrenia. Doctors concluded she suffered from severe delusions. She genuinely believed Slender Man existed. Anissa Weier, however, did not have the same diagnosis. Experts said she had been heavily influenced by Morgan. She believed the story because her friend convinced her. Still, she had participated in the crime. And the legal system had to decide how to handle it. Because of the severity of the crime, prosecutors initially charged the girls as adults. This shocked many people. They were only 12 years old, but the attack had nearly killed someone. Eventually, the case moved into a different legal direction. Instead of traditional prison sentences, both girls were ordered to psychiatric treatment. In 2017, Anissa Weier pleaded guilty to being a party to attempted second-degree intentional homicide. She was sentenced to 25 years in a psychiatric institution. Morgan Geyser received an even longer commitment. In 2018, she was sentenced to 40 years in a psychiatric hospital. The goal was treatment and supervision, not punishment alone. Years later, years passed. The story slowly faded from headlines, but the legal consequences continued. Inside the Winnebago Mental Health Institute, Anissa Weier began showing progress. Doctors reported that she was stable. She completed her high school education. She followed treatment plans. And doctors said she no longer posed a threat to others. Eventually, medical professionals began recommending her release. The 2024 court decision. More than 3 years after her commitment began, Anissa Weier returned to court. Her lawyers asked for her release from the psychiatric hospital. 3 medical experts evaluated her. All 3 reached the same conclusion. They said she no longer posed a danger to herself or others. In court, Judge Michael O'Boren acknowledged the horror of the crime. He said the attack still made people tremble, not just because of the violence, but because it involved children attacking their own friend. Despite the disturbing history, the judge agreed with the doctors. He ruled that Anissa Weier could be released. However, the release would require strict conditions and planning. Authorities needed to create a supervised transition plan. Until that plan was ready, she would remain temporarily at the institution. Meanwhile, Payton Leutner continued rebuilding her life. She survived one of the most brutal attacks ever carried out by children in the United States. And she showed incredible resilience. Over time, she returned to school, recovered physically, and eventually spoke publicly about the experience. She said she forgave the girls who attacked her, but the psychological scars of the event remain. The Slender Man case shocked the world, not just because of the violence, but because of what inspired it: an internet myth, a fictional horror character. The case raised serious questions about how young minds interpret online stories. For most people, Slender Man was simply a creepy character, but for two vulnerable children, it became something terrifyingly real. Today, the Slender Man stabbing remains one of the most disturbing crimes involving children in modern history. It reminds us that imagination, obsession, and mental illness can sometimes combine in dangerous ways. And it reminds us of something even more important: the incredible strength of survival. Because despite everything that happened in those woods in 2014, Payton Leutner lived. And her survival turned what could have been a tragedy into a story of resilience.